finishing term 1 and signing up for term 2. We're excited to have you. I'm Dana Sheahen, and
I'm Cezanne Camacho.
And we're 2 of the instructors for the second term. And so today we're just going to kind of walk you through some of your new content and ask a few questions at the end. Mm-hmm. First, I'm going to screen my share. I'm going to share my screen.
So you can see the term 2 classroom, right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And oops. Okay.
Perfect.
There we go. Hopefully you can see that. This is what you should be seeing. Of course, you've already finished Foundations of AI, and now you have the Deep Learning and Applications Center section. And there's a few parts here that you could take a look at. There's, of course, a welcome. Then there's a dive into deep neural networks. This will give you a lot of foundational information on how to, all the different parts of deep learning. There's all kinds of information about log loss or error functions, softmax. You'll learn about all of those things if you go through these with Luis and learn to use Keras, which is going to be useful for your projects. Mm-hmm. Then in addition to that, there's some housekeeping things that you can find here. You look under extracurricular, you'll see that there's job search strategies that you can go through, which includes,
that's really nice.
Yeah, includes resume review. And there's a second section that's on career networking, which developing your personal brand. I think I need to maybe go through that. That sounds pretty good. LinkedIn review. Okay, I could use that too. We have to go through these. Mm-hmm. And some information about GitHub if you need any tips there. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then one other thing I just thought I would show you was under deep learning, before we go into the projects themselves, there also is some sections, there are some sections here on the concentrations that will be coming later. And as you go through your projects and get to know some of the deep learning things, we'll be releasing more information about those areas. But now, Cezanne is going to tell you a little bit about
so the next few sections. So I think just to kind of, I was just kind of looking at the foundations of AI, and it goes through a lot of logic and decision making. And I think deep learning, you really learn about how to layer what you've already learned and build something that can kind of learn on its own. It's sort of this big, it's like a big buzzword, but it breaks.
I like that. Yeah. It learns on its own.
Yeah, and Luis really breaks it down step by step, so you can really have a good understanding of how these things are working. Because a lot of it does seem kind of magic sometimes. So the parts after that are specific types of deep neural networks. First, there's going to be convolutional neural networks, and these ones are usually used in visual recognition tasks. So convolution is like sort of a fancy word for filtering images and recognizing different visual patterns. And these types of neural networks learn a lot about images usually to recognize things like
little features, like little lines, and the nose and things like that.
It's used extensively in facial recognition.
It's got a cool project. It's the dog project where you learn to recognize.
If we view it, so the final project, you start with just the basics of convolutional neural networks, and at the end, you're going to be creating a project that actually classifies dogs to the level of it classifies them based on breed. So there's tons of different types of dogs, and this one really can recognize detail. And you'll be creating an Amazon AWS account, which allows you to actually do deep learning because it's pretty computationally expensive. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, use some GPU time.
Yeah. Then after that is another type of neural network, recurrent neural networks. And let's see, different from convolutional neural networks, these ones learn usually in sequenced data. So this is just like 2D image data. Now we're moving to things like speech and I don't know, anything that has a time sequence or a text sequence.
Right, it has a little bit of a memory so that it can put those sequences together.
That's right, yeah, and it learns from the past, which is an interesting skill. And the project for this one is time series prediction and text generation. So you'll actually be kind of generating a Sherlock Holmes story, which is going to be a fun
or at least text from Sherlock Holmes.
Text from Sherlock Holmes, that's right. Yeah, and then just probably a couple other things about the classroom. Do you want to talk about these, Dana?
Let's see. What do we have?
We have, so
what is this one?
that's looking at all the courses.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
Well, this is a good
guys.
learning experience.
Okay. So then.
That's going to be our forums.
Okay. So if you click on this, then you'll go to the forums, which you may not be able to do here. But yes, it goes right to, there we go.
The AI&D forum.
Perfect.
Where people are already asking questions. If you get stuck or if you want to learn more about a subject, this is a good place to go.
That's a good place to go. Great. And then what do we got here? What's this one?
That I believe is
your profile.
And that's central around careers. So it has a lot about kind of how you would build a resume and like tools like in the extracurricular section where there's things about GitHub. You can demonstrate kind of the projects you've built and build up a nice profile for yourself.
And I guess your projects, as you complete them, they should be listed there somewhere in your profile. I think that you can release to other people. And then there's the mentorship. You see here that a name comes up. You can check in with your mentor and communicate with your mentor if you have questions.
Yeah.
And that's another avenue of help. Plus, there's Slack. And somewhere in here, there's a link to the Slack channel. Well, you're probably all already on the Slack channel, but there are new channels now that are available to you. There's one for each of the AI sections that's titled AI Dash. So it's AI Dash CNN, AI Dash RNN. And for the specialties, when you get to those, AI VUI, if you have some questions, or AI CV or AI NLP. And then in addition to that, there are sections set up for the project. So there's one that's P-CNN and P-RNN. If you have some questions, you could go take a look at those. That's a great place to get a lot of information and a lot of help right then when you go. So that's what we got.
Yeah, that's a quick walkthrough of the classroom. Maybe we can go back to us and I'll answer some questions from the chat. Yeah. So one of the questions we just got is, when do students get to, some fractal screen sharing. Let's see, there you go. Okay, so the first question I got after that brief artistic interlude.
It's a CV thing.
It's true, that's true actually. Is when do we get to choose the concentration? So actually, just to describe our roles in AI, I'm going to appear at the very end of some of the deep learning material that Luis is teaching, and so is Dana. I teach a concentration on computer vision, which is all about how computers visually perceive the world, and in the context of AI, how can they make decisions, especially intelligent decisions, based on that visual data. So that's what I'll be focusing on, and there's a lot of really interesting and sort of beautiful examples there, and I'll be talking a lot about kind of facial recognition as an example that you can build on top of.
Well, in the VUI section that I'm the instructor for, we'll be going through an Alexa app. Well, they don't call them apps, they're skills. This is so that you can set up a voice user interface with an Alexa Echo device. And then the second part of it gets more into models and deep learning using, for speech recognition, we'll go through the traditional pipeline that's in use today or for the last few decades with HMMs, but we'll then move on to the state-of-the-art DNN implementation of speech recognition, and that's what your project will be for that. Yeah. Then there's a third concentration, and Arpan isn't here to represent himself, but you all know Arpan because he was a big part of AI&D1. He's going to be with you for NLP, that's natural language processing, and I know they have some good projects lined up for that. So you'll have to think about that over the next few weeks before you make your decision on what concentration to choose.
That's true. And I think what's really interesting is where each concentration is partnering with someone in industry. So for me, I'm partnering with a company called Affectiva that does not only facial recognition, but emotion and facial expression recognition and responds
That's so cool.
in a socially intelligent way, which is really historically difficult for machines. You're partnering with Amazon,
and then NLP is with IBM.
Watson.
So,
yeah. So these are big names.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, they're very impressive. And okay, so when do you get to choose? I think that some of this concentration content is going to launch actually in just a couple weeks. I think the first part It's mid or late June.
June
I don't know,
27th,
I give the
I
wrong
think.
date. Yeah. But the idea is you'll go through this extra deep learning foundation that Luis is teaching that's been launched now. And by the time you go through it, you will have enough knowledge to choose a concentration that suits you best. Because maybe right now you're wondering which one is going to be most interesting for you.
I think they're going to get a preview too.
Oh yes, and a preview, yeah.
Yeah, you'll get some previews on that, so that'll help you make your decisions.
Oh, I have a question that is interesting actually. Will the voice user interface concentration be for English language only?
It's going to be English. We're going to do it for English, but the project that we're doing is applicable and has been done in Chinese, which is very interesting, but that's in the papers. We're just going to do it in English, but it can be done with Chinese as well. So it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's a pattern with all the skills that you'll be learning is we go through a lot of specific project examples, and it's really good to get that hands-on experience. But anything that you build and anything that you learn can often be applied to similar challenges. So if you can build something that recognizes and responds to the English language, the idea would be you could build it for any other language as long as you have that data.
That got that background of the tools and things, and really all of these things they fill multiple PhDs, so there's no way we could cover it all. We're just giving you a path, and then you probably have to go farther yourself if you want to do something a little different.
Mm-hmm. So waiting for questions to come in. I think I have one for you, Dana. But this is really just become an interview hour now.
All right.
But I'm actually curious, what do you think, like for students, what do you think is going to be most exciting about term 2 versus sort of foundational material in term 1?
In general, for any of the concentrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all 3 concentrations are set up so that you start with deep learning to get yourself that basis for RNNs and CNNs, which are going to be used in the next part. And then in the second part, when you choose your specialty, you're really doing current state-of-the-art, first with an API with a company that's got a commercial product right now, such as IBM, Amazon, and Effectiva. Mm-hmm. And then you'll go into more the theory of how their stuff is probably working underneath. Not specifically maybe their work, but that technology, like speech recognition, how is it being done state of the art now, or in the case of CV,
computer vision, yeah. Like where is it being used? Yeah.
And how something a little more theoretical underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So I think we teach a lot of theory and then we put it into practice. That's just sort of the Udacity way. And I think it's especially exciting.
But it's interesting because on one hand, you're doing this high-level abstracted version of a project, which is using an API that has been commercially developed very professionally, and it just works. Like the speech recognition just works. The speech synthesis just works in the case of VUI. In the case of the Effectiva, they've got things that they already work. Same thing with Watson. And so you're just then using that to kind of make almost like an agent that's able to use those. And then the second part is more, how does it work underneath? So there's layers upon layers of how AI is used.
Yeah, that's cool. That's exactly right. So when I think about the project that's in computer vision, you'll initially be working with a programming library from Effectiva that already has the tools and has learned to recognize different facial traits. It can recognize people with glasses, if you're smiling, if you're angry or something.
If you're smirking, there's one with a smirk, right?
Mm-hmm. And you get to play around with this library and build something where you can map someone's face to an emoji, which is just sort of fun. And then as we progress through the rest of the course, you'll actually learn how to build something very similar step by step, just starting from facial data and building.
How does it really work, right?
Exactly. And it's really exciting, and the skills are always applicable to really anything that you can think of building. Let's see. So I have a question about what would the next step be after people finish term 2 for someone without a formal CS or AI degree.
That's a really good question. If you mean what would be the next step for improving your knowledge or making yourself more marketable, I guess.
Probably improving knowledge, or I think a lot of our students are aiming to get jobs in this space.
Right. But one thing that I've heard suggested is to maybe take a research paper that's related to one of these projects and then reproduce it yourself online, and so that you have a repo to show. I mean,
Yes.
that would be a very cool way to show that you truly understood it. You'll have the projects you did here, but if you can go beyond that, then you have that much more to show. And if you can leverage what you're learning here to take some of those other steps, like build it in Chinese instead of just English or something like that, it would be very exciting and probably very interesting, I would think, to a prospective employer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think to add on to that, especially in artificial intelligence fields and with deep learning, a lot of this material that we're teaching is very, very new. And so even people who do have formal CS degrees, often don't have the skill sets to pursue these jobs. So when I talk to people I know in CAR, they're working with NVIDIA. When I talk to people at Affectiva, I'm sure probably Amazon similarly, they look a lot at projects. They look a lot at code on GitHub. We have some things in careers and in your profile in the classroom that helps you set that up for yourself. But if you can build a project, whether that's something that is through the Udacity course or through looking at a research paper and building something on your own, that's really what employers look for. They look for something you built, and can you explain how you got from point A to point B?
Great.
And I think you can apply for jobs and just.
I like what you said about how a lot of people that got, well, if you got a CS degree 10 years ago, you might not have any of these skills. And even if you look at common textbooks and things, they don't talk about some of the latest and greatest ways of doing some of this stuff with deep learning.
That's exactly right. I have one more question about the Alexa. So we're all using APIs. This student is wondering, is that concentration available in countries where Alexa is not available? Is there an API available globally?
Well, to use the API, you do need to select a certain region, but I'm not sure that you have to actually be in that region to select it. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's a requirement, because mine didn't originally select the correct region either, and I had to select, I think it's Eastern US and Ireland are the only two regions in AWS that work with the Alexa Skills Kit. So I think that you can set that up yourself. When you log into the AWS, you can select either one of those in order to use it. Now, if you don't have an Echo device, you can still do the Alexa skill set and still do the project, and you will just use a simulator online.
That's what I was thinking.
So I don't think that will limit you.
No, I think most of these tools can just be hosted on any traditional kind of laptop. You can just get the software and tools and something like an emulator if you don't have the device. And there's an online simulator for Alexa that you go to this website, it's got this simulated Echo, and it'll talk to you. So. Yeah, let's see. Not too many more questions, but as usual, I still have some more. I guess one thing I really like to talk about is current applications of computer vision, because that's what I'm passionate about. Okay. Maybe you can talk a bit about
I think that you should talk about computer vision stuff because you're interested in talking about it. So go for it.
I must. So I think I mentioned a bit about sort of facial recognition and motion recognition, which a lot of the computer vision concentration in this course will focus on. But I think another thing that we're actually working on at Udacity is self-driving cars. So computer vision is used very, very extensively in any sort of robotic navigation. I think even in Mars rovers, you can look at some terrain and learn how to navigate it based on just how it looks, any sort of lane lines, or learning from how humans drive cars, sort of image frame and video data. So computer vision is used extensively in navigation, not only in facial recognition. Let's see, some other
it seems like one of the things I saw about car was I watched one of the past videos, and at first they weren't using computer vision. And they were using it just as their own check. They would use the video, and then they realized, well, we should just use this. Yeah,
and it's usually a combination of sensors and video and all these things merged together. How I actually got into it was I was studying medical image analysis when I was going to school, and so it's also used a lot. I know our own Sebastian Thrun has focused on detecting and diagnosing skin cancer based on what it looks like.
You're just trying to get everybody to sign up.
I am. So set up for computer vision. No, but it is like really exciting, and every concentration has these far-reaching applications, I guess, is the larger thing that I'd be trying to say if I wasn't also marketing.
Okay, so how are we doing on time? We're probably about out.
It's about time to wrap up.
I was going to wax on philosophically about VUI for another 10 minutes, but
you
I guess
can talk a little bit. Yeah, maybe we can stay on in case there's any last questions.
Okay, well, I'll just say one thing that I've learned about VUI that I thought was pretty interesting with speech recognition was how it's something that if it doesn't work well, you don't want to use it. It has to work really well, or you'll just dump it. And we're really coming to the point now where we're at that tipping point where it's starting to work well enough that it may just explode into all kinds of applications, because you can speak 3 times faster than you can type. You know, we just sit there in front of the computer, we're typing it, we're texting people, we're doing all this stuff, and we could be doing it faster if we could just speak, if we had confidence that the machine would actually understand what we're saying. But usually it doesn't. You have to be so literal and so careful. But we're at the tipping point, like I said, where that's going to all change. So the VUI could be the new front end, whereas before we've been typing and then we've gotten into touch, but VUI is coming as being the new front end. So it's really a good time for it to get in.
Yeah, that's a good point. The new front end.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Maybe I'll sign up for your concentration data.
Well, you can do both. You can do all of them.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah,
that's about it.
It's been very nice to
no more questions. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy your term 2 projects, and I know they're a lot of fun. So
thanks for listening to our impassioned spiels. Yeah. Okay. Bye for now.